You know, back in the old days, there was this program called Layaway where you can go into like a store and start making payments on something, some high dollar ticket item. And once you paid that off every month, it was yours. You could take it home. That's how I bought my first deer rifle from the Marine Corps PX on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. And it was the first, weapon that I bought that I purchased myself. It wasn't a hand-me-down. It wasn't my dad's. It wasn't anything like that. So I went and I picked out this 30-06, and I just didn't have a lot of money. And so I did the layaway program, but I needed a scope on it. And the cheaper scopes were all sold out. And so I bumped up to like this entry-level Leupold scope and put that on the layaway program and had them all, put the whole package together for me and all that. Made the payments and finally got to bring it home. Ever since then, almost every rifle I've owned has had a Leupold scope. In fact, I'm having a custom rifle built this year, and it's going to have the Leupold Mark 5 HD scope on it. I just killed a buffalo with that scope. It's a really great product. And Leupold, guys, you know them. Everybody knows Leupold. They've been around since like 1907. They started as like a special instrument company or something like that. But these American-made products are fantastic. Whether you're looking for a spotter, binos, a rifle scope, accessories, tripods, bipods, all that kind of stuff. You can find it all at leupold.com. And I'd really appreciate if you supported this American company that has a great American story. And I couldn't be a bigger fan of a company. And I'm so happy and thrilled that they've chosen to partner with the Western Huntsman. Thanks to Leupold, and thanks to you guys for supporting our great sponsors. Experience the evolution of accuracy with the new Browning X-Bolt 2. Guys, this rifle is something else. With the introduction of the X-Bolt, Browning has set a new standard in the development of bolt-action rifles. It was created around the goal of total accuracy, where every component worked in unison to improve downrange performance straight out of the box, from windswept tundras to rocky peaks high above the tree line to African plains and everywhere in between. The X-Bolt delivered the tack-driving accuracy a Browning rifle is respected for. And that's super true, guys. I really like this rifle from a standpoint of, like, it's not super heavy, it's not super light. I put a really nice scope on it. I love that Veritech stock because that is like one of those pieces of accuracy that, that interface between the rifle and the shooter. Not everybody's the same size. The DLX trigger, you can get the plus magazine system for extra rounds. Great all-around rifle in the field. For those of you that are looking for a rifle this year to take to the field that you can feel real confident in and get really comfortable with, this is the rifle to check out. The Browning X-Bolt 2 should be one of your top contenders. Link is in the show notes. Welcome back. This is part 2 of Muley Strategies and Big Bulls with Tom Schneider.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's a big factor. Well, I honestly think that's one of the big factors. I know mule deer populations, as they were saying, are dwindling throughout the country, and I understand that. And especially, I saw what happened. I was in central Montana a couple years ago, and that blue tongue just completely annihilated a lot of those muleys, which there was by the hundreds. Talking to all the locals, are like, dude, you'd see hundreds, plural, muleys every day. And even one of my friends was over there and killed a giant. Oh, they killed 2 giants out of that country. So while that was Archie Elkhorn over there, I did a little scouting while I was over there too. I'm like, because he's like, check these areas out. We saw tons of muleys in there, and we saw probably 3 deer the whole trip. And I was like, where the heck are all these muleys that he was talking about? And there was that blue tongue. So I understand like these things happen and stuff, but I have noticed, at least in these areas that I hunt, that when the predators are managed properly, when the habitat's there, the mule deer population spikes back pretty quick. Like it kicks back in. And Idaho, we did something, and I know it's not popular, but me and a bunch of other guys, we kind of pushed a shortening of our mule deer season. And this was probably 5 years ago or so. And I can't tell you the quality of muleys that have showed back up in our region just from that we shortened the season in half. And
yeah, I remember when that happened, that it like in those northern units, the season all of a sudden started closing on like November 9th or something now, where it was
Yeah,
going a lot later into the year before.
yeah. And so it used to be the whole month. And I'm like, and and our argument is, and it's true, is like, there's areas that I've killed some of the biggest muleys. And the thing is, yeah, sure, like you have to hike far back, and there's not a lot of people are going to do that. But if you actively have somebody going in every week into an area, and especially in areas that like, let's say a burn or a clear cut where they're a lot more vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and you have people actively hitting those, and you got, it's like, if there's a big buck within 5 to 10 miles, he can ease like a big mature mule deer. He's going to come through there,
Yeah.
and so if you have a 30-day hunting season, again, it's back to losing that age class. It's like those does have to be bred. They have to be bred one way or another, and those bucks are going to breed them. That's just part of their nature, and that's part of survival of their species. And we're out there shooting them at their dumbest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and so for me, in my care for muleys, and a bunch of other guys who are very hardcore mule deer hunters, were like, if you're even a mule deer hunter at all, you would agree with this, because like if people are like, I'm doing it for the meat, I'm like, dude, shoot a valley whitetail. You for doing it for the meat, shoot a valley. Sorry,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just like, I'm like, why
No,
would you drop?
I agree, man. Shoot a whitetail if you're just a meat hunter. Like you can. The thing is, man, I think like in Northwest Montana, I feel like we should. I don't know. Whitetail tend to outcompete mule deer on the habitat and on the landscape, and so like I'm all about. Like you could shoot a lot of whitetail and not really affect the population. You know what I mean? Like they will. I think they're less finicky with breeding too, just from watching them. Like a little 3x will breed a lot. Will get a lot more breeding action than I think we give them credit for. And we all think it's only those big, 150 whitetail bucks that are getting any action in during the rut. But no, I don't think that's true, because I've seen like shoot whitetail, especially if you're just a meat hunter, shoot whitetail, because when we go out and people are starting to shoot these little, we're going to take a lot of flack for saying some of this stuff, Tom, because
because like now we're tackling on the whitetail hunters, like, yeah, no, don't shoot any more whitetail.
I know, right? I know, but man, there's so many whitetail in this area. There's so many freaking whitetail, man. You don't even, and there's some monsters. We've got some monster whitetail over here, and so. The point is they outcompete the mule deer. Like it affects mule deer way more. There is no scientific data here to support this opinion. I am just saying from like this observational standpoint.
Well, there is. Yeah, there is. They've said, well, a lot of central Montana was happening where the and I'm trying to say this the best way. Like I try to state facts, because I'm going based on what another wildlife biologist have said, right?
Sure.
That whitetails are a lot more aggressive during the rut. So typically when whitetails are in the area, mule deer get pushed out. Like,
yeah. No, I know that. Yeah, that is data driven. What my opinion that I'm saying that is not necessarily data driven is when we go out and we road hunt a little 2-point mule deer buck, the effect on the mule deer population is much greater than if you're out there and you shoot a 2-point whitetail, right? Oh, yeah, like those young bucks, letting some of those younger mule deer bucks walk is I think a greater impact than letting young whitetail bucks walk, because the whitetail population is so prolific, and their ability to breed and survive. And I don't know. It just again, you guys. Email me if you disagree and you hate that opinion. Just email Tom at stuck in the No, email me, because I'd be curious what other people's opinions are on that. But like I've never wanted to get in a position, Tom, where I'm like kind of ragging on or throwing rocks at people that are shooting these little 2-point mule deer, because everybody has a different objective. You like to shoot big animals. I like to shoot mature animals. When it comes to deer, that's kind of my thing. Elk, I don't, I'm not a good enough elk hunter to pursue only monsters. Like I'm not Tom Schneider level. And so it's like, but the older I get and the more experience I get and the more I observe these animals, I do believe we need to lay off these younger mule deer. Like, and I see it all the time in this neck of the woods where somebody's just up. The road hunters clearly have left a thorn in my side this season, because I saw so many of them go up and sleuth these little 2-point mule deer bucks that are just dumber than all get out, and they just stand there and let people do that. And I get it, you know, that's your experience. You want the meat, but like Tom said, man, honestly, a young whitetail is going to taste way better than a young mule deer, and you should like maybe do that. I don't know, man. We're gonna stir the pot.
Yeah, but like, well, I love stirring pots, but you know, there's some areas like you go to Southern Idaho where there is not as many whitetails, and so it's like I get that, you know, so it's like it depends.
This is super nuanced.
So this is just like, you know, in the areas that we were hunting, you know, where we got whitetails in the valley, muleys in the mountains, and whitetails are rats. Like I mean, at least in the valley they can be. I still have my opinions too on what we need to do so that we can have better whitetail quality. Like, you know what I mean? Like perhaps some, I don't know, like, well, like in Idaho, we had this 2-month season. Well, it would be a full month of bucks only season and then a month of any deer. And I felt like that was really knocking down our quality in whitetails, but I feel like that's a different topic for another day. But you know, so because I do really care about whitetails as well.
Oh, me too, man. I love whitetail hunting.
Yeah. And so it's just the fact that, I mean, I guess what I'm bringing up is, and again, like you said, like, so Travis, his youngest boy, 10 years old. His oldest boy is 10 years old. Yeah. He was able to hunt for the first time. He shot a very young, but still okay, 5. I mean, I count eye guards, so he's a 5x5.
I count eye guards too, brother.
Okay, so 5x5 muley, because I'm not weird. I count eye guards. Just kidding. Let's start another pot while we're at it.
Might as well.
Yeah, but you know, he got and it's a young deer. It's probably a 2 to 3 year old buck. I'd say more about a 3-year-old. But it's like, he's a young kid. He's getting his first deer. If somebody, honestly, if you send me a photo and somebody shows me a 2x2 and says I caught my first mule deer, I'm going to say congratulations. I'm not going to say you douchebag, you should let it grow. Everybody's got to start.
I'm same, absolutely the same. Especially a youth hunter, man. I'm not going to throw rocks at a youth hunter that shoots a 2-point. It's guys that go up every year of every season, and that's what they're doing. They're shooting these dumb little 1.5-year-old or 2.5-year-old muleys right from the road, not even getting out of their truck. That's really getting on my nerves.
Oh, what got me? And honestly, I should have turned the guy in. But there was a guy who was literally going, and I got so mad when he talked to me. He said he went to he's like, he had all his friends' hunting tags, and he was going up and just whacking. I was so pissed. I wanted to rip him out of the vehicle. I was so mad at him.
Yeah.
I was just like,
I can't.
He's like, oh, I already killed my 2-point mule deer. And he's like, but I still want to keep hunting. So I grabbed all my friends, all my family's tags. And I'm just like, couldn't believe, I was like in shock when he told me this. And I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, do I turn you in? Do I rip you out of the vehicle and beat your, beat the snot out of you?
That's what you want to do. Isn't that interesting, man? Is that a man thing? Like my first reaction is always violence. And I don't know if it's because I'm a Marine or what, but like my first reaction, I always go to violence in my head. And then, age, wisdom, I start.
You have to talk yourself out of it.
Maybe call the game warden on that one.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, because I want to just like bounce my foot right off his front teeth. And because that stuff, that's the stuff, you know what? Okay. We're going to really stir the pot. The people that are going to get the maddest about what we're talking about are the ones that remember a few years ago when I still lived in Idaho. This was probably 5 or 6 years ago. When I still lived in Idaho, the Idaho Fish and Game had a comment period, and where you could show up in person and make a comment. And all these people were having all these strong opinions on the local Facebook pages and in these groups. And they're, oh, this is BS. And they shouldn't be doing that. And then they had the comment period evening where the only two people that I knew, there was only like 5 people in this group that even showed up, but it was you, Justin Webb was there, and a couple of old timers that I didn't know were the only people that actually showed up that voiced their opinion at one of these meetings. And so the people that always get mad and that are always griping on like on the old Googler or the Instagram or whatever, the Facebooks, you know, they're the ones that don't show up to these freaking meetings, and they all they do is gripe. And so like when it comes down to making these important changes in the hunting seasons or the regulations or some kind of wildlife management issue, everybody is so reactionary and complaining about what happened instead of proactively trying to be a part of what they feel is a positive change. And so until those meetings start getting filled up to the point where they have to turn people away at the door, I don't even want to hear from people on Facebook or sending me nasty emails about my opinion about wildlife management. You know what I mean? It just, I'm over it because people are all talk.
That's funny you say that, because I feel the same way. I'm like, I've been in battles on Facebook over these over these new law
people
changes
that don't do anything. Yeah.
And then I show up, like me and Travis will show up to these meetings and where's all these people that had such strong opinions? They're not here.
Exactly.
And it's just us and a couple other guys. And there's more wildlife biologists sitting there than there is hunters. And it's like,
and I know that change is the positive things that could like affect the legislation or what the commissioners are deciding or whatever. Like Idaho right now is in this big fit because the commissioners are, I think they just passed a rule banning like cell cams or something like that during season, and everybody's complaining.
They were attempting it, weren't they? I think they were attempting it.
Well, it's got to go to the legislator now. As far as I know, it still has to go to the legislators. But that is their recommendation. And, you know, obvious things like, you know, you can't use thermals while you're hunting. No kidding. That's pretty obvious stuff. But, you know, drones. But you know, the cell cam, that's an iffy thing. I think that's a little silly because it's like, okay, you got a cell cam 3 miles in the back country. What are you going to do? Run up there when an elk walks in front of it? Like it's going to still be there. But I get it. I get it. They're trying to limit the technology, and that's cool. The thing is I respect anybody's opinion, but go voice it, because all that stuff, and I know that we're capable of it, because when this idiot Mike Lee down in Utah starts wanting to give away our public land and sell it off, hunters come together in mass. And we bring in other groups that are not even hunters, and we get a lot of stakeholders involved, and we make a ruckus, and things happen. We shake this thing out, and we stop people like Mike Lee from taking our public land. But when it comes to rules and you know, legislative action and, you know, rule changes or whatever, everybody's only loud and obnoxious on Facebook, where it doesn't matter. You have to show up to these meetings. You have to write these letters. You have to take action outside of getting on and commenting like you're somebody's drunk uncle trying to offend everybody. Like that's not what makes a difference. And I'm just like, obviously you hit a nerve, Tom, and I'm all fired up. My blood pressure's up, my heart rate's high. This is what happens. But yeah, it's like, if you got a problem, take action and like do something about it. If you see an issue, like I see an issue, I'm sick of seeing road hunters waylay 2-point bucks that are mule deer right off the side of the road. And like, I think it's time we actually make a change. And I'm not even talking about point restrictions. I'm just like, as a like etiquette thing, people should start having more discipline. If you've been hunting your whole adult life and the only thing you've ever killed are little 1.5, 2.5-year-old bucks right off the road, it's time for you to start maturing as a hunter and having some discipline and letting those guys walk. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Come at me.
Well, and a friend of mine who completely he avoids Facebook now because he's gotten in so many fights with it because he's a selective hunter. But he said he's bumped in the guys in the woods with a 2-point and a full grown man, and you know, and the first thing they do is they come up with a bunch of excuses, and it's like they already feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
And without even saying anything, it's like you walk up like, oh, nice buck. And they're like, well, you know, it was just like, I know it's not the biggest buck in the world. It's like, if you feel so, why'd you shoot it are you truly like, you're already justifying it, and I didn't even like, I'm not even like bashing you or anything. So the reality is, when you go to it, and this is what my friend says. He says, when you shoot a deer, are you going to be happy with that deer? You're going to walk up to it. You're going to feel good about it. The reality is, people are like, oh, I need the meat. I need the meat. Let's be realistic here. I probably spend more money. I probably spend more money mule deer hunting than I could have just bought beef. I could have probably just.
Oh, absolutely. Oh man, without question for me, man.
So
without question.
Let's really bring this down. Oh, I really need the meat. It's like, okay, like if my mule deer, if you actually, it's probably $100 an ounce, or sorry, $100 a pound.
Right. Dude, you know what makes it even worse for me is because I do this show, so I get a lot of sponsor gear given to me. I get a lot of sponsor gear, you know, and so a lot of this stuff, like you know, the rifle setup. Leupold's one of my favorite sponsors. They sent me this really nice Leupold scope that I put on my Browning X Bolt 6.8 Western. That's what I killed the 2 deer with this year, and you know, so I didn't even spend money on that stuff, but it is no joke, man. I spend a ton of money on hunting items that I don't even know are necessary, and it's way more expensive. I could go down the road to this high-dollar bison ranch and buy a butchered bison, like a half a bison, and it'd probably be cheaper than what I spent on hunting.
Yeah, and so I hunt, and obviously I do enjoy the meat too, but it's part of it's the whole process of it. I live for that process, and for me, I look at it a financial standpoint. It's like, that's what drives me every year. Like, what's the point? Like, I don't feel like life is meant to just work. And like hunting is truly a hobby of mine. I love the passion of it. It's like people that grow a garden too, right? Like, I think we can say the same thing. When you grow a garden, a lot of times you're like, you know what? If I would have just bought those strawberries from the store, it would have probably saved me money. But there's a form of reward when you grow your own. You know what I mean?
So true. So true.
But yeah, I mean, that's so, and especially me buying non-resident tags, right? Like me as a non-resident getting an Idaho, Montana elk, I'm over $1,000 there just in the tag, and I haven't even started the hunt yet. I haven't even started the hunt, and so to say that it's just for the meat, it's like, come on, guys, like. Are you truly, so it kind of goes back to that. Are you going to be happy with that deer you kill? Now, if you're the first time hunter and you kill that deer, congratulations. You are truly happy with that deer. If you're a 16-year-old and that's your first deer, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And the reality is, and I guess I need to go back to this. I should have said this off the get-go, that it's true. This is why I felt like it was so important to push a shorter season in Idaho. And me, I mean, it's killing me, but I get it. As a resident of Idaho, we like the idea of having less non-residents. I noticed that Montana's taking a shortening tag, like less tags, which is killing me. It's already hard enough for me to get a non-resident tag. I literally live 700 yards from the Montana line. So it's like,
so funny, man. We're like,
I know.
I'm about 1,000 yards from the Idaho line, but I'm on the Montana side. And you're kind of the same thing on the other side. Now, what I did, Tom, is I bought that lifetime Idaho hunting license before I left Idaho, because I knew when we're like starting to look at property in Montana. I'm like, okay, I'm buying this, and it was like $1,200 or whatever. So I think that you know, I don't have to go, like Idaho just switched up to the draw. They're going to be doing, but. To your point, now I haven't read up on this. They're reducing the non-resident tags in Montana, but isn't that for like the secondary tag, like in those units where you could buy a doe tag? Like that's what they're reducing.
I hope so. I haven't looked into it, but I've seen some concern. I've seen other people talk about it. People that, you know, I'm still trying to find loopholes. I don't really have any. I'm just like, I'm like, what would it be like to be a Montana? What's keep me from being a Montana resident right now is kids. And not that but it's like, I feel like, you know, to have a good community of kids, and I don't want to get too detailed in where we live. Right. And so I'm not going to say the towns and stuff, but I just feel like, you know, they're in a good school right now where my kids are at. And it's like, for me, it's a lot easier. I was a lot more mobile and easy to move and travel and do this stuff like when I didn't have kids. And now it's like, I'm a lot more stationary. It doesn't stop me from hunting, but I have to stay a lot more stationary, a lot more stable when you have kids. And
yeah, absolutely.
But I'm like, gosh, dude, can I just move my mailbox? Can I do that? Can I?
700 yards.
Yeah. And so it kills me. And
yeah, I'm kind of in the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh yeah, no, it's so I'm in that spot. But I love hunting both sides of the, I love Montana. I love hunting Idaho. And I think we can all look at things that can change and things that could be better. I truly do believe that if we just do our part at least, and just like you said, just be involved and the sorry, I'm kind of, my mind's skipping a little bit everywhere here.
No,
but
you're good, man.
We have to do our part. We have to, like I said, attend these meetings that they have when they have when they allow like a public opinion, and this is our chance to, and it does it. You truly can make laws change. Like, it's not like voting for the president of the United States. Like, if I vote for that, it's like, really, does it even matter? Like, I always feel like that. It doesn't, I mean, it does, but when it comes to like, when you're working on like local issues, just your voice makes a big difference. I mean, I can't believe just me and Travis alone attending meetings, we have made changes. And I'm like,
absolutely.
Wow, they listen to us. They actually listen to us.
They do, man. They will actually listen. And I think that's one of the hardest things to get through some people's heads, is they're like, oh, well, they don't listen anyway. No, actually they really will. And I get it. Sometimes it feels like they're not, because you have maybe an opinion that is overpowered by a big group of people that have a totally different opinion or whatever. But I think that they listen. Like, one of the things that I tell my hunting clients when they show up is, I'm only going to take this as serious as you are. Like, if I show up to the lodge in the morning and you're hungover, and can barely get out of bed, that's as serious as I'm going to take filling your bag for you. Like, I'm going to take you out, and we're going to be as serious as you. Like, if you show up and you're a hard charger, you want to get out there and you want to go 4 or 5 miles into the backcountry. You want to do, some serious hikes into some deep drainages where the big elk are, whatever. That's what we're going to do. But I'm only going to take it as serious as you are. I'm not going to drag you. And that is the same mentality that we have to have with laws and rule changes and how we deal with our fish and game agencies. Like, they're only going to take it as serious as we are. And when they see that we are serious, just like old Mike Lee did down in Utah with the public land issue, when they see, they're going to take it more serious when we take it serious. So if you don't show up to those meetings because you think that they don't listen to you, that's how serious they're going to take it. And that's what is reflected on freaking Facebook. That's how everybody looks at it. They're like, oh, well, nobody listens to me, and I'm just not even going to show up anymore. And that's a bad attitude to have, because if you take it more serious, they're going to take you serious. And that's the opinion of one simple dude here in Northwest Montana.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'd say just like I said, small group. We had a spike only season that was going on for elk. We hated that idea. And we're like, why are we shooting spikes? And so
Utah does that.
I know, it's dumb. But anyway, so Travis, and just a couple other guys showed up and this is a season that's been going on for years. We show up and I'm like, why are you guys doing this? Like, and we shared our thoughts. The next year, they got rid of it. And it's like that, just us showing up to that meeting did that. But then it was like 4 or 5 years goes by. A couple other people were complaining, oh, we're not killing spikes. We want to kill spikes again. They put it back up again. So we showed back up. Get rid of that. Why are you guys trying to kill our spikes? They got rid of it again. So the thing is, though, and I got to say this, it's not the fault of the people by fault. They're following the laws, right? If you choose to kill a 2-point mule deer during the heat of the rut and that buck is dumb as it can be, that's not their fault. It's the fault of the laws. Like, it's
the law. I'm not mad at them from that standpoint. They are doing everything within the law. Yeah, for sure. Other than the dude that doesn't even get out of his truck and just shoots it right from the driver's seat, that kind of thing. You know, I mean, it's real easy in Montana. All you have to do is get out of your truck and have 2 feet on the ground. Like, come on. It's so lame.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah. Let's talk back on Muley. Sorry, we got a little off tangent there, but it's all good things.
Yeah, we should probably wrap this up by because you are like the go-to man. You are, when I look at you are authentically the DIY public land mule deer expert, like top of mind that I think of. You know, you and my buddy Brian Barney, you guys like are just killers when it comes to these public land mule deer and these great big suckers, man. And I love watching you guys and how effective you are at it. And so I don't know what we were even, I think I'd asked you like where people go wrong. Why do they end up with just these little 2 points? And you were talking about, you know, the access and how to locate them on Onyx, and so, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so then both the bucks I looked at too. So it's like, I think what happens is people look at things at the blinders, right? They're like, oh, somebody killed a big buck here one time, so therefore I'm going to go here and kill a big buck one time. And I never go into it thinking that, like, that it's like my elk. That elk is dead, so it doesn't matter if other people knew where I killed my elk. The elk is dead. You can't kill an elk that's already dead. If I kill a big muley buck in an area and you go in there, you can't kill that muley. He's already dead. So like people, I feel like they hunt areas for the wrong reasons. They don't really understand I'm trying to put this in the right way, where they just truly don't understand why they're going there. Why are you hunting that spot? Is it because one time there was a big buck there, or is there more to it? For me, I look at the broad picture of things. Like, I'm a shed hunter. I shed hunt in the wintertime. I look at the animal summering grounds. I hunt the fall, I hunt the winter. I mean, I'm talking, so when we do, like, you know, we have our master classes where we teach this online, we cover everything about mule deer, everything about elk. I think what the issue is people only want the juice. They think that there's one special recipe, and if I just pour this in, I'm gonna kill a big buck every year. No, that's not the case. Like, it's not. Some people, like, if they want to be really good at archery hunting for elk, you also got to know what the elk are going to do during the post rut. You also got to know, like the bull I killed this year, right? I saw this bull in the wintertime. I knew where he winters. I knew where he summers. And then I know where they hold up during the rut. Like, so all that combined is how I was successful and able to harvest that elk. Same thing with muleys. I know where they summer. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to say this in a cocky way. I'm saying this in a way of where you need to understand, like, when you hunt in an area, it's like, okay, well, where is this buck going to be safe in the summer to where he can grow that big rack, and where I'm going to.
I think that's the question, Tom. Like, how do you know? Before I ask that, when you say you're shed hunting in the winter, those bucks are usually dropping on their winter range. And so you're just kind of doing the math on that, right? You're saying, okay, here is the most probable way or place that I just found this big shed down on the winter range. So if I look right up this way, look at that big drainage going up into the high country. He's probably going back up there. Is that kind of what the math you're doing in your head when?
Yeah, I am. And I'm saying, okay, so it's like, okay, well, where's this buck going to feel safe? And there could be multiple drainages, right? There could be 3 or 4 drainages. My mind, yeah. And here's an example of a buck that we've been watching now for 2 years. And it's just mind blowing to me that there is one big buck that we've been watching. He jumps, and we learned this a lot with trail cameras. This buck's jumping 4 drainages, huge drainages to chase those. And I'm like, what in the world? You know, and these were, you know, I had these trail cameras in search for different deer. But then some of our friends had same trail cameras as bucks too. And we're just like, dude, this one big buck, he is moving some serious country during the rut. But he always has his same wintering range. He's wintered in the same he winters in the same drainage, and he summers in the same drainage. But during the rut, he can be anywhere. And so Yeah, but yeah, so it is exactly your point. And so most of those bucks, I mean, sometimes I feel like it happens with elk too, where you'll get, mule deer will cross over, chase the doe on the other side of the mountain, and then all of a sudden the snow gets deep. And so he ends up in a new wintering range. And so you may never see him again. And then maybe he prefers, oh, you know what, I feel safe there. Those big bucks, safety is their priority. Like they will pick it over food.
Yeah.
And so you see these areas where there's, oh, the fireweed is perfect, or that the waxy leaf ceanosis is perfect. Like the food source is perfect. Everything is. Why isn't there a big buck there? Well, is it a safe spot for a big buck to live? People don't realize the small amount of hunting pressure, what that does to a big buck, or the amount of predation that'll do to a big buck. It'll bump a bit. Big buck is not married to his spot unless if he gets pushed out, right? But if you leave a big buck alone, like let's say in the summer and early fall, he will stay in the same spot the entire time. If you spot a buck, like let's say I got eyes on a big buck in July. If nobody bumps him out, I can go and find that buck first week of September. That same buck in that same drainage. He'll be right there. He's just stacking up. If he feels safe, because everybody's got to eat. And he's still got to build up that food storage, or the body fat for winter. He's not going to move a lot though.
Yeah.
And perhaps he may even be by himself. It doesn't mean, if you're not going to rarely see these bucks. So before the rut, you're not going to see them with does a lot. It's like they're kind of like buddies, like they hang out with their friends. And the only time they get involved with the women is during the rut.
During that rut, yes, absolutely.
And so, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. So going back to your point there, yes, I find a shed and I'm like, okay, well, where is their summering grounds? And then I start putting those puzzle pieces together. But now here's the thing: after I figure out where summering grounds are, then if there's another big buck, like let's say that buck's dead now that hunt's over, right? Well, if I see another big buck, what's amazing is they kind of do the same thing, right? So it's like, okay, well, this big buck summer's here. Most likely he's going to shed his rack in the same rough area where that other buck was wintering. And sure enough, boom, you just figured them out. And and now you have this spot that and it's like, I can share that same hunting area with other people. They just don't know how to hunt it, right? They don't know what the deer are doing. What happens when the snow gets deep? What happens when there's no snow at all? What happens when it's a dry year? What happens when it's wet? There's all those factors changing where that buck, and if you're hunting the rut, where the does are going to be. And that's typically my focus during the rut.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, totally. Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely did. I think that's a good way to put it. I like the recipe analogy, because that you're exactly right, where everybody's kind of got this idea that, there's this secret sauce that goes into 100% of the time it's going to be effective. But yeah, it's just like I'll bet you in your master class that you do, the e-course there, it's like a lot of moving parts. Like my wife's a really good cook, right? She does this like homemade, it's like this Italian soup thing. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's really good. But everything has to line up with what she's doing and putting in there, from a standpoint of, if you skip this particular ingredient, that it's not going to be right. And sometimes you could mess it up and put the wrong stuff in there and it still tastes good, right? And so it could go either way. So and that's kind of, I like the way you described it, from like, it's a holistic thing. You have to understand the mule deer habitat. You have to understand how a little bit of hunting pressure affects a 5.5-year-old mule deer buck versus like, a 2-point. And how I love what you said about safety over food source, because I think that's critical too. Because one of my hunting clients, we were kind of driving to this other spot to go in, and they were a little bit limited with how far they could walk in, but they're like, man, it just looks like there should be mule deer here. And well, there was, but they're just little 2-point bucks and does. And we kept seeing them, and they, to their credit, they were like, they were like, oh no, I would not, what you said earlier, I would not be happy with this buck. They're literally their words out of their mouth. And, you know, they were from the Midwest. So a big mule deer was a big deal for them. Anyway, but I wish I would have had that in my mind from what you said to kind of help explain that like, yeah, you're right. This does look like there should be a big buck here, but this road that we're on is why they're not, because safety takes precedence over habitat. And so like they will live in a less, I don't know, a lower quality habitat if they think that they're safer. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And then obviously some of that safety gets lifted during the rut, right? And so and so that's where I'm like, hey, I know this is a little closer to the road system, but there's a good group of does there. And there's a big buck that I know there's, you know, it's just from sheds. I know there's a big buck in the area. There's a good chance he's going to mess up eventually. And so it just depends on the time of the year. You know, if I'm going to hunt deer, obviously in October way differently than I'm going to hunt them in the rut in November. I'm going to hunt them way differently, like almost like a different animal. You know, it's like you're not going to find them in the same places. Yeah, there was a buck we saw this year, and I was after my tag was filled, but we saw a buck, and this was not with trail cams, but when we saw right early season, we saw him way at the head in this canyon, and he was a cool deer. He at first look thought it was a big buck, but he only had back, he had nothing in the front, but he had a beautiful frame. Next year's gonna be great. And I was like, there's some down canyon a long ways. There's a group of does. And I'm like, what are the odds of that buck eventually finding that group of does? It was about a week later that buck was at those does, that same buck. And it was so far up the canyon from where, you know, I was like, what are the odds and finding that same buck again? And we weren't going to shoot that buck.
Yeah.
But it was like, now he's with that group of does down low. I mean, and it wasn't even that much of elevation. It was just more of they went down canyon to check on a different group of does. And it's like, so the rut works like that, you know, and so I hunt the rut differently. Obviously you'll learn more in our masterclass, but I'm specifically focusing on does. But more than that, it's like, I got to know if there's a big buck running that area, you know, or is there a potential of a big buck running that area? If there's a lot of just like no man land where a big buck can hide, it's like he's got to mess up. He's got to come down. He's got to check them does, you know, and I got to be there. I got to be there. Yeah. I've had this conversation with people like where they pressure an area so hard to where they bump the does out of the area. And I'm like, you do not want to do that during the rut, because if the does aren't in your area, then the bucks aren't going to go in there either. So you have to be really careful with pressuring an area where you have good does. Do you want to keep those doe? You want to keep those doe groups in there. All that scent and everything, and those bucks, they're actively coming back and checking them does. You know what I mean? Even if they're not in heat, well, that buck knows where those does are, and he's going to make another route. He's going to make another loop. I know you probably got to get. I know we're getting close to the hour, but okay, with a couple of stories of this fall.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, yeah, we're good. I've got another 20 minutes or so before I have to hard stop.
Okay, hard stop. There you go. So let's talk about my Montana buck. And so I feel like these are good examples, so that, you know, instead of me just explaining, I'm like, I'll explain step by step on how my hunts came about. And so obviously, so like my Montana buck, a lot of people think, wow, so in 5 days of hunting, I killed 2 great bucks, right? One in Montana, one in Idaho. That's in 5 days of hunting. And it's like, was that by chance, or is there something that I knew? So I'll explain about the mule deer Montana. So same ordeal where I knew it was early season. So I'm like, okay, I have my areas I want to hunt when the rut kicks in, but there's some areas that I had that brought some curiosity to me. Cause you know, on the Montana general tag, what is it? It's like October 25th is when the season starts. And, and so I was out in a spot where I'm like, you know what, there was this spot that was in my mind. And it's not a usual spot I would expect to see bucks, except I've passed through there for other reasons, for elk hunting, for other, you know, for just enjoying the summers. It's important to stay observant. Anytime I'm in the woods, I'm always observant for things, right? I may not even be in there for mule deer, but I'm like, hey, I noticed there's this like trail that's always active on the mountain. What's using this trail? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff. So anyways, this one particular area, when I first found it, it was nothing to do about mule deer, but it was a couple years ago I went through there and I noticed a fair amount of mule deer sign in there. And it's not a spot where I'd expect to see muleys like per se, especially with like, it's, especially if it's a mild winter. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't expect muleys to be in there. But in that one particular year, I saw a lot of rut activity. And so I was always in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what? Like that's a really good spot to check out for the first week of season before the rut really gets hot, just to see what's in there, just and curiosity. And even my brother Travis, like when I talked to him, he's like, what's your plans on the first week of mule deer season? I told him, he's like, that's a dumb idea. He told me that. He's like, he didn't have in it. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, it's early on anyway. So I'm like, I'm just gonna hit it. It's gonna be a stormy day anyways. Like, it's not really a spot where I want to camp in just yet, you know what I mean? And so I went in there and I started seeing, early rut activity already happening, and probably within, no joke. So I would say 4 hours. It took me it's a long ways to hike in, but in the daytime, it was 4 hours in the daytime. I found that nice buck. He with an inline. He was bedded. It was funny. He was bedded down and staring at me for probably, I'd say 15 minutes or so. Cause I was sitting there and I was like, this is a good spot to glass. And I'm glassing and probably about 300 yards off, I see a doe and a smaller buck. And at that time I've already seen another buck earlier on that first light. And so I'm like, hey, I'm actually already in some deer activity. So pretty good for the first day of season. And I look to my left and I'm like, gosh, and I say it like this, where I see a face whiter than mine. And I'm like, so I'm like, I just see this big white face staring at me. No snow background, so it's really hard to see. And I see the face. I pull up my binos and I see his face and I see his rack. I'm like, oh shoot, I think that's a shooter buck. And I ducked behind the hill, and then because I'm like, it's either I offhand shoot. He's already at 150 yards. I'm like, either I offhand shoot here, or I get down and get in a spot where I can shoot off the knee. I don't want to offhand shoot, I don't have to. Let's find a better rest. So I get up, and then at this time I'm already ready for it. So I get the video camera ready on a tripod. And so I sneak up and I get right to the edge of the hill there. And then I'm more like at 80, maybe more like 80 yards. And I pop up, set the video camera up, turn it on, and he stands up like he wants to run. And I see that inline. So again, me counting eye guards, he's a 5x7. And so I'm like, and I pull up my scope and I'm like, he's getting away. And then, I had to make a quick decision, but in my mind, I'm like, is this a buck worth shooting on the first day of season? Yes, no, yes, boom.
Nice.
And so I had to make something happen. It's hard not to shoot a buck that size, and so killed him. So it was just like, for me, first day of season, was that luck? Or was that I was observant when I was in there before? Like I said, I don't remember if I was hunting elk or why I was in there a couple years ago, but I just remember going through there and realizing, hey, noted, you know what I mean? With all that activity in there. And it's like I said, it's like not even my brother, who is a very skilled hunter, had faith in that spot, but he hasn't been in there. And so for what I noticed, it was like, and I would have no way. And even like I said, if I looked on Google Earth or Onyx, that wouldn't be my first choice either. It's not one of those places where I would say e-scouting would have benefited me. It's all because I had boots on the ground on that one. And then the other spot, so now my Idaho. Any questions? Do you have any questions?
No,
on that,
I love it. It's great. I think that everything that you're talking about is probably going to culminate like the way you describe it in the masterclass at which we can get into here when we close it out or whatever. But I love it, man. I actually, in everything that you're talking about, because I'm looking at your buck here on Instagram on this other screen, like if I saw that on opening day, it wouldn't even be a question. Yeah, heck yeah, that is a shooter buck. He's a great buck. I'd be super proud of that buck.
I'd like to welcome Mystery Ranch as a sponsor to the Western Huntsman. This is a great product. Specifically, we're going to talk about the Mysterium line. Those packs include the Sawtooth 45, the Sawtooth 65, the Beartooth 85, and the Marshall 105, depending on, what you're doing with the pack. If you from day pack to backcountry, plenty of space. I like what they wrote on the website. Between the disciplines of calculated preparation and in-the-moment focus, an intangible alchemy exists. We call it Mysterium. It is our most ambitious, tech-rich line of Mystery Ranch hunting packs constructed for the most methodical hunters. I'd agree with that. It's a great pack, guys. I really like the ventilation system. When you put it on, it's nice and tight, but you're still breathing a little bit less of that buildup between the pack and your back when you're sweating and out there packing through the mountains and whatnot. It's a super functional pack, very comfortable, very good at carrying loads. I've been using it all spring between bear and just like I do a lot of rucking to keep in shape, and it has done a phenomenal job. I've got a lot of top-of-the-line packs out there, and I've always kind of geeked out with packs, but I really do like the weight distribution and the way that it allows you multiple options as to where you're going to either carry a water bladder or one of those Contigo containers or whatever you're going to use. Really impressed. I love the ease of how everything functions on it, too. You don't need to watch a bunch of videos to figure out how to undo everything to pack a bunch of meat out. That's really important for a guy like me, I promise. I'm not super smart. So the simplicity, the comfort, the load distribution, it all makes for a wonderful backcountry hunting pack. If you are in the market, check it out at mysteryranch.com/mysterium.
Yeah, great hunt, man. Go into the Idaho one.
Yeah, so the Idaho one, so obviously it was like, wow, my hunt's already over in Montana. I got to wait for Idaho season to start. So I had time to work, went back to work got my ducks in a row because I'm like, okay, well, now my Montana's done. I want to be able to just stop work, stop everything, and just hunt muleys for the fall season.
Yeah.
In Idaho. And I spent a couple days out, and, more or less, I had my area. I had multiple different areas on the back of my head of where I wanted to hunt. And so this was the spot ended up killing this deer was on my checklist. It's a spot where I've seen activity. And what I loved about that area is it's a food source thing. So for the does, and where it's there's not a lot of food on this mountain, but there's just pockets of it, right, where the does like to pull to. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm looking at the back country, and there's just so much country, and not even in the summering range and the early fall range, there's just not a lot of places where you can glass big bucks. However, with trail cam photos in the past and stuff, and not even just myself, but with some good friends, there is some masher bucks that live in the backcountry, and they're just and people scratch their head, and they throw their, they throw the towel down. They're just I don't really know what to do with those bucks, but it's what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stick to the does because those bucks will show up. Mm-hmm. And so I hit that pocket where we typically bump in the does, and sure enough, and this was like I said, this was day 4 of the deer season in Idaho. I get in there, we got a fresh skip of snow, which is sweet. Now it's not a lot of snow, but it's enough to where if I have to track a buck, I can.
Yeah.
I get to that spot where normally I see a pocket of does, and immediately I see doe tracks, and I see a buck track. And I'm like, okay, so this buck, but what was interesting is the buck was leaving the does. And I'm like, okay, it's a nice buck track. And why in the world is he leaving the does? That does not make sense to me at all. But it's early season, so perhaps first thing that comes across my mind is knowing muleys. If the does, none of the does are ready or they're not in heat, they're going to move, right? Mm-hmm. And so I start following this buck, and he's going into no man's land. And in my head, I'm like, I've been where that buck is, and there's not a lot of doe activities. And he's leaving a pretty dang good group of does here. And so as I was following him, what's crossed my mind is I had some good openings below me, and I kept looking. I'm just you know what? There's a good I need to be very cautious below me because this buck most likely is going to be doing a loop. I've seen bucks where they leave, and then it's almost like they question themselves. They're like, should I be leaving these does? And then they'll sometimes come back and just do a big circle and come back to the does. And I was like, there is a good chance he may do that. Or if he does have another group of does on his mind way up canyon, then perhaps he's going to be going 2 to 3 miles. I mean, you really never know with a rut buck, right? But I'm like, let's just follow his tracks and see what he's going to do. Like I got to figure what he's going to do, because he's according to looking at the track, I'm like, that looks like a nice buck. And one thing I'll notice too is some of those older deer, they start rounding off like an elk almost. Like, deer have pointed tracks, elk have rounded tracks, but some of those older bucks will start rounding off from walking in the rocks their whole life. And so he was rounding off. I'm like, so not just the fact his track was big, I was using that to my advantage too. So I'm like, okay, well, followed him. And then he started doing what I thought he was going to do. He dropped down and he's starting to head back. And instead of following his track, I'm just going to go right towards does. Let's go back to his does. So I head right back to his does again. And then I start dropping down the ridge, start following his doe tracks. And there he is, staring at me.
Oh, man.
Boom.
How far away?
And 60 yards,
wow.
Which is funny. So it's
close.
wide open. So it's in the wide open. But it's around a lip. And so as I was coming down, I let a couple grunts off, because I'm just like, I want to see something pop out. And it actually, I don't know if it was good or not, but regardless, he's dead. But all of a sudden I just see this deer sticking up and I see his rack. And I pulled, and I did a quick look at my scope. I'm like, shooter, no doubt all day. But again, I'm like, I see his face, I see his neck, and I'm like, honestly, it's going to be a rough to shoot that little window of the neck, for an offhand shot. And maybe I was a little far. I could have been more 80 yards or something, but I'm like, and I'm like, I know this is, I may miss my chance of killing this deer, but I saw a big tree and I moved behind that tree and I gained a lot more ground. And I was able to then I popped out and shot, afterwards, but I got closer, just because I felt like, like those offhand shots, sure, I take them when I have to, but I'm like, if I can get somewhat of a decent rest, then I'm guaranteed the kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he dropped in his tracks, and great buck, heavy, lots of mass.
I was gonna say he's super heavy, and I love the color on those antlers. Like it's just that's like your quintessential mountain timber buck right there, man. He's a stud.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So and again, and both those deer are getting age. I'm really curious on both of them. What's funny is the one in Montana actually didn't have big bases. He's actually had skinnier bases. And so a lot of people's impression on a skinnier base mule deer, like, oh, they're probably younger deer. But his teeth are worn way more than that one I shot in Idaho. So I'm rather curious how they're both going to be, how they're going to get aged at the lab. So I learned a lot with that. You learn a lot with muleys, with aging them, and so then it's like, because you see them in the field, and then you get a good eye, and then you get them aged, and it's like, okay, well, now you can tell, okay, well, if they have these particular features, most likely they're at this age class. You can start getting better at field judging muleys by doing that, and I'm starting to get better and better at it. Obviously, I'm still off by a year or two sometimes, but I'll see bucks that are just like, they don't even, I've had friends like, oh, that buck's a young buck, and I'm like, no, he's going backwards, like, so you start learning about that with deer. And you would be surprised in some of those younger, or those bucks with smaller racks you think are younger. You'd be surprised how old those bucks are. I see it with whitetails too, where whitetails, like there'll be like a basket rack 4x4 that's like 8
really?
7 to 8 years. Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like, sometimes animals just don't have good genetics, and
that's true, man.
I'm assuming that Idaho one, he's going to be mature. Like, if I was guessing based on the bases, I would think he was like an 8+. But seeing his teeth and his body features, I'm going to think he's younger. I think he's mature.
Yeah.
Like now the Montana one, The one in Montana, on the other hand, though, his teeth are really worn. And so it's going to be a toss up with him. It really is. And I didn't have a lot of time to look at his body features when I shot him. So I'm like, he'll be an interesting one to figure out, just because he didn't have the bases. And that you would think like an old buck would have, but his teeth showed otherwise. And so I'd be rather curious to see what he's gonna age out to. So
yeah, me too, man. I'll be super curious to see that, because I just keep going back to both of them right here on your Instagram. I mean, I like my head says that Idaho buck is older, but I don't know.
Yeah, his bases are big. Like if you actually, like, it's one of those ones, if you actually found the shed in the woods, it'd be like, holy crap, like this buck isn't getting any bigger. Like he's past his prime, like, because he's got the bases, like those big fat crusty bases.
Yeah, man.
And it's pretty cool. And he holds the mass all the way up, so he holds it all the way into his beams. And so
incredible. That's an incredible season, man.
Oh, really, yeah, thanks.
Really good job. I just,
as you can tell, I love it. I get into it. So I'm like a I don't know, I feel like a teenager that gets his first Xbox or whatever, when it comes to mule deer hunting. I'm not a gamer, but I'm saying that like it's just I live for it. I still act like a kid. I'm in my late 30s. Man. I still act like a kid.
I'm in my mid 40s, man, and I still hoot and holler like a schoolgirl when I get something. I have so much fun with it, and I had a great season, just a fun season. I got to do a lot of hunting, and so it was just, I think guys like us, that's just how we operate, man. This is what we live for, and it's like a really cool life, I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything. So anyway, well, tell everybody, for those of you listening, like Tom does the mule deer masterclass through Stuck in the Rut, and that website is going to be in the show notes, which is just stuckintherut.com, which is stuck, the letter N, therut.com. But again, it'll be in the show notes. There's a mule deer masterclass. There's a wolf masterclass. There's an elk masterclass. Am I missing anything?
Black bear and whitetail.
Black bear and whitetail. Oh, that's right. You added the whitetail. Sweet. Yeah.
So we have a bunch of classes, and I got a great, and prior I used to run the whole website, which was absolute nightmare, but now I have help. And so I got a tech guy who is just awesome. And that's why it's under, you'll notice if you click on the link, it goes to 360 Sportsman. So there's a bunch of other master classes that are on top of that too, with other, but if you're wanting to learn like other things, maybe it's like foraging or what have you, but we have a specific Stuck in Rut section with all our master classes. The whitetail one I had a lot of fun with, by the way. I know we were bashing whitetails a lot earlier, but
I love whitetail.
I have a friend he's like the king of scent scrapes. He doesn't have much of a social media presence, but he is the king of scent scrapes. And he's a guy, he came from Wisconsin and came to Idaho, and he pretty much was out hunting all the locals, killing big bucks every year. And he was the type of guy where I'm like, dude, I got to figure out what this guy's doing. And so he taught me everything about scent scrapes and all that other stuff. And it's different. I mean, and I'll share a little insight. He uses his own pee and doing these scent scrapes. Yeah. And I did this as well. So when we created the master class, I was like, I got to have him on there with this because he is the whitetail expert. I've killed some nice whitetails, but I got to have his expertise, to help with this. For us, I truly don't feel like I could do this on my own. And so I went out there and I showed him a spot where I'm like, similar how I hunt muleys. I'm like, dude, like this is where I pick up big giant whitetail sheds. This is where they summer up here, up the canyon. And I was like, right during the rut, there's this big funnel point right on this nice bench that on and off I've caught some really big bucks. And so I had him walk that spot with me because I know he has his own spots. He's not gonna be up there.
Sure.
And so he we filmed him working his magic and finding the perfect spots to set a set scrape. And man, I had so much activity there. It was really sad though, because I had my camera stolen. And so I only got the last, so I set a trail cam at it. Trail cam got stolen. So I set it back on the 20th of November just to see how the activities, because I didn't have a tag anymore, right? So I was like, well, I still want to see what's going on there. And the whitetail activity there was just incredible. And literally I went back there and I had a 28, I filled up, it was like 30 ounces of my own urine, poured it all over that scrape. And within an hour, and it was a cellular camera. So anyone who's saying on cellular cameras, it was a cellular camera. So like as soon as I left the mountain, I literally get a bing and there's a 5x5 whitetail at it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think it's one of the most underutilized things, man, for these mountain whitetail. You know, everybody in the Midwest does the scrapes and uses these scents, but out here, nobody really does that. And everybody's just kind of out on a whim, you know, looking for a buck on the mountain, which is fine, but man, it's an underutilized thing. And so they'll learn how to do all that on that, whitetail masterclass.
Yeah, and then food sort. I mean, just everything. So again, it's just like that's not the only hunting technique in using and hunting whitetails, but same thing, kind of like how I explained the summering grounds, the fall grounds, and but then it's like same things like, well, is this apply to me because I hunt at this state and this state has different habitat and terrain? Well, that's why I brought Mark on, because Mark himself hunted Wisconsin and he uses the same techniques here in completely different habitat, completely different whitetails, and it works the same as it does in any part of the United States. And so, yeah, so we got that as well. And then like the same thing with mule deer, same thing. I get the question, oh, well, does it apply to Wyoming? Does it apply to Southern Idaho? Does it apply to Central Montana? Does it apply to Colorado? And it's like, yes, because we've hunted and successfully killed mule deer in all those states. And probably the biggest compliment I get is the breakdown of all our hunts, because I do a bunch of breakdowns on those master classes where I'll actually show from scouting and everything step by step and how I came to kill a big buck. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's not, instead of me just telling you, I show it to you step by step. And when we do a YouTube video, I'm just showing the entertainment, right? It's like if I show too much, it gets boring, so it's like, but I can really break down the detail and how I was able to find a big buck, even to the point where we're picking up their shed sometimes. But sometimes, you and me, it's like, well, I'm going to go on a hunt to Colorado. So I don't shed hunt that. I don't go to the summing grounds, but I can figure that out pretty quick, because we always say, oh, well, I'm hunting different deer. And they kind of are, right? They're different deer. They have a little bit different DNA, but in the end, a mule deer is a mule deer.
Yeah, man.
And if I bring a mule deer up here, put it in Colorado, he's going to adapt to what those mule deer are doing. If you bring a mule deer in Colorado and bring him up here, that mule deer is going to adapt to what these mule deer are doing. It's the same species, it's just different habitat. And so what we teach is how to figure that out, and figure it out in a very quick manner, so that way you're not wasting a lot of time scouting too. Because like you and me, you were talking about your roofing, I work in the woods, like we have our daily jobs. And so sometimes we don't have the time to do the scouting, but if that you have the knowledge, then it really cuts that learning curve. Before, when I really didn't know how to hunt muleys, but I had the drive, and I can't teach you drive. You got to have drive on your own. Like, it's like, you got to figure that out yourself. You got to have the willpower. But when I just had willpower, not knowledge, it would take me, that was back when we had a full month season. It would take me the entire month to kill a big mature mule deer. And now it doesn't, usually it's never a guarantee, but that I don't have that learning curve anymore. Like, we know what we're doing. And I'm not just going to say but we are family. And this is years and years of handed down information from not just my dad, from other old timers, from other people, a lot of really good mentors, people that have taught us so much about mule deer. And another compliment we get too are from experienced. I always feel insecure when I get when I have an experienced mule deer hunter going to buy my masterclass, I'm like, oh boy, I'm going to get judged. And then when they buy it, I get nothing but compliments. Guys are just like, dude, like I've been hunting mule deer for a year and I had no clue that's what mule deer did. And and that's a really, awesome. And I love that. When I hear that, I'm just like, yes, okay, it's helped them. And I love, and you know, and just my phone just fills up on Instagram, on private messenger, where people are just like, hey, your masterclass helped me. Boom, big buck. Boom, big buck. Boom, big buck. And I get all these photos from big bucks, and same with elk too this year. And Travis, he killed a really big bull elk with his bow too. And so it's like it's really good to see, not just the fact that, you know, that we have the knowledge, but you know, the reason why I'm talking about myself a lot. I'm trying to not act cocky, but I do this to help you. I do this to help everybody else so that they can find the success they're looking for. And you're not spending a whole month away from your family and your job and, you know, trying to find a mule deer. And you got to look at it. Some people
I think that's an important one, man. Like, if you can get back to work after, you know, instead of a month, spend a week out there and you get the same caliber buck, that you're going to go back and make a lot more money. And I don't know. I think that's a good combination. So.
Well, I've always looked at it that way. It's like, if I can go kill something in like a short amount of time and go back to work, you literally are saving more money in the long run, right? Like you're
absolutely.
Like you're not just saving, but you're making money. Cause all that time off work, I mean, you can spend a whole season. It's like, oh, I don't want to spend that much money on a masterclass. It's really not that much as it is, but it's like, well, how much would you make that if you're out working? You know, like it's really nothing. It's really nothing.
Well, yeah. And that's it's powerful knowledge to have. There's because like your masterclass, I took your wolf masterclass and it was awesome.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
You know, and in the you know, Eastman's we have our, you know, if you guys are elite members, you can get on and do the Deer Collective. And I think I recommend all of them because Tom has a different take on how to kill these big monster mule deer than like Brian over you know, on the Deer Collective. And it's good to know both of those because you might find yourself in circumstances where one is going to be more applicable than the other. And then the next day it's vice versa, you know? And so it's just really good to have all this information and knowledge. And these e-courses are a new thing. I wish these type of, like, I wish your master class is available 25 years ago to me, you know, and it would have changed everything. But anyway, I got to run. So I want to tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. So you can find, Instagram, Stuck in Rut, YouTube. You'll have the notes in the link there, stuckinrut.com. You can find us. 360 Sportsman, that's where our master classes are actually held. But like I said, if you just go to the Stuck in Rut website, there's a link there to the master classes. Just scroll down, boom, it'll direct you right to it. So that's the simplest way. But even on Instagram, I have the link there as well. So you find us there. And if you have any questions, I use my Instagram a lot like a text. So if you do have questions and you want to see, hey, does this really apply to my area that I'm hunting? Then by all means, send me a message. I'll be honest with you. I'm like for example, desert muleys like in New Mexico. I'll be like, honestly, I don't think this would apply to you because you're hunting cactus and sand. And it's like, that is a truly different species of mule deer.
Totally different planet. It seems like sometimes, but it's also, I don't want to forget, like if you guys go to wolfhuntingacademy.com, there is an in-person 1-day class Saturday, March 7th at Shills in Meridian, Idaho. I almost said Sheridian. I'm like, where's that? But Meridian, Idaho, at the Shields on March 7th, there's an in-person. What does that class cost? Do you have that information? Oh, $195 a person.
Yeah, so it's not that much. It's just for 1 day. And we used to do the 3-day camp, and look, you would learn more at those, but the reality is, for one, it costs us so much with the camp and the meals and everything that we had to throw a high price on it. And it was just like, and so many people are just having a hard time getting that much time off in the summer. So we're like, let's just do a 1-day crash course and just get it to a price where people feel like they can afford it. And trust me when I say that that's the cheapest part of wolf hunting is that the price of that course. Like,
oh, absolutely, absolutely,
pretty expensive, especially on fuel and stuff. But and time off work. Time off work is what I always say. Is like you have. I mean, I know that's bad the way I look at it, but I'm like, a day that I'm hunting, I'm losing this much day at work, and so. But you don't want to get it to where it makes you want to get back home. It's just, I'm just saying in the sense of put it perspective and gaining knowledge. You gain the knowledge, and you're going to spend less time trying to find that animal for. So,
well, cool deal, Tom. I really appreciate you taking all this time with me. I know that we've gone way over what I told you, but I appreciate that. That means it's a good conversation, and I think people are going to get a lot out of this episode, and hear some opinions, and hear some facts, and hear some all sorts of stuff. So, always a good time with you on the show, brother. I really appreciate it.
You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.